Tang Mian remembers who she is, but she doesn't remember why she appeared in the forest. Magic is a good thing, but like money, magic is not omnipotent. The original plan was to write joyful essays, so there was no need to think about why darkness exists. I always wanted to try something new, but then I bumped into the south wall. How to imagine light in the darkness. Chapter 1. Who are you? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Tang Mian's first reaction after waking up from the water was a sense of relief after liberation. Finally, there's no need to do PPT anymore. There's still the remaining 800,000 yuan mortgage. Whoever loves it, go ahead and pay it off. Anyway, that building has been abandoned for a long time. As a social animal, being able to see a pale moon as big as a football field in the deep blue sky, if it weren't already there, what else could it be? Tang Mian had fantasized about escaping countless times, but never imagined it would be in this way. Is this heaven or hell? If it were hell, how could there be such a beautiful sky? The social animal murmured to itself in confusion, its voice echoing in the air, but received no response. Only the gentle and cold water flow around it seemed to be telling something. No, I can speak and move. I'm still alive and haven't died suddenly due to staying up late and working overtime. Tang Mian suddenly stood up and looked around cautiously. If a social animal did not die in the office, it should have died in the corridor outside the office. After death, it will go down to the 17th floor of hell because it did not contribute to the capitalists' delicious food and spicy food. Tang Mian now lies surrounded by 6 stone pillars covered in vines and tree roots, like an altar. This is not the world after death, at least not the scene that is said to be in hell. The pool was shallow, and Tang Mian struggled to stand up, carefully stepping on the unstable stones, wanting to leave this eerie place. At the moment she left the altar, 6 stone pillars collapsed instantly, completely burying the altar. A huge sound echoed in the air, causing ears to buzz. She was startled by the commotion and turned around to see only scattered stones and withered and broken branches. Tang Mian's heart was filled with joy of surviving the disaster, while also feeling a wave of fear. If you walk slowly, it may be a second time. Ah bah, what are you thinking? The current question is, where is this, is she still alive? Tang Mian raised her hand and pinched her cheek fiercely, feeling the familiar pain. Equally familiar is the scar on her wrist, which is the mark she left in her past life. These unquestionable pieces of evidence tell her that she is still alive. But why is she here? Tang Mian looked up at the huge moon in the sky, his doubts and unease growing stronger. She hadn't looked up at the sky for a long time, and really didn't know when the moon had become so big. The potholes above could almost be seen with the naked eye, as if they would fall down and crush this fragile world at any moment. Looking around, the towering trees and lush flowers and plants that only exist in the primitive forests in the videos and pictures truly make the animals who have never traveled far feel intimidated. Is it difficult for the world to be destroyed and the company to go bankrupt? Every squeezed social animal sincerely hopes that the skinning company can go bankrupt. If possible, the social animals don't mind setting off 2 firecrackers to celebrate after finding a new job. But the destruction of the world is too exaggerated. She is just a powerless commoner and cannot have a chance of survival. That's a privilege that only upper-class people have. The gentle breeze blew through the damp clothes, rustling the leaves. Tang Mian finished shivering and was blinded by something glowing in the distance. That is an exquisite pendant set with transparent crystals, with a curved hook, hanging on a blade of grass. It should be an earring. Tang Mian picked it up, her doubts deepening in her heart. Picking up handicrafts in a place like a primitive forest indicates that there have been human activities here before. Was it because someone threw her into the pool? Tang Mian pondered for a while, but could not come up with an answer. She doesn't remember who she had a grudge against, that's why she was treated like such a prank. The best way is to leave here as soon as possible, find a place with people, and seek the help of the police. But if you want to leave, which direction should you go? Difficulties and troubles emerged one after another, and Tang Mian walked aimlessly forward, becoming increasingly restless and irritable. If she were to know who was causing trouble, whether the other person was malicious or well-intentioned, she would not hesitate to beat that person up. No excuses are useful, whether it's a joke or a prank. She needs to report attempted murder to the police and then appeal to the court. Angry emotions surrounded Tang Mian's heart and could not be calmed for a long time. It wasn't until the warmth came from the palm of the left hand that this anger turned into fear. Tang Mian saw a slender diamond-shaped tattoo appearing on her left palm, with one green end pointing towards her index finger and the other red end occupying the tip, landing on the edge of her palm. She didn't know what this tattoo represented, but she instinctively felt that green represented vitality and red represented danger. You should immediately adjust your walking direction and walk towards the left front, away from the altar behind you. In addition, a new sense of fear surged in my heart, possibly not just the moon, but also her. Being an ordinary social animal for 30 years, it is common knowledge not to tattoo in obvious places. It is common knowledge that tattoos do not change angle with walking direction. After Tang Mian adjusted her forward direction, the green tattoo pointed towards the middle finger, and the red at the end became less and less, leaving only a slight tip. What she could think of now were movies about bio-humans, mutants, and modified humans, but she quickly dispelled this idea. The scar on her wrist was created by herself and left a deep impression. If the body is not the one you brought out of your mother's womb, there is no need to replicate it one by one, it's troublesome. So, this looks like a tattoo, but it's actually more like something from satellite navigation. What exactly is it and why does it appear in the palm of your hand? Until there was no red on the diamond-shaped tattoo, Tang Mian slowed down and breathed a sigh of relief. Her clothes were a set of gray long clothes and pants, which looked like a home outfit. The foot without shoes felt a pang of pain at this moment. I wonder if it was a cut on the skin while running. It's not time to consider these things yet. Tang Mian found that the brightness of the sky was much darker than before. She has no experience of surviving in the wild and needs to find a place to rest as soon as possible, otherwise the unknown night may directly end this second life. The tattoo on the palm of the hand did not change direction, firmly pointing forward. Even if Tang Mian turns around to explore, the dark green end will still turn around to confirm its safety. What kind of thing is this? Is there a compass installed in my palm? Tang Mian smiled bitterly and muttered to herself, now she has nothing and can only rely on this most unusual thing for hope. The diamond-shaped tattoo emitted a slight warmth until it led her to a small wooden house covered by weeds before quietly fading away. Navigation ended without voice reminders. Chapter 2. Right and Wrong of Good and Evil. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The small wooden house, covered by weeds and vines, appears to have been abandoned for many years. The wooden board that serves as the door can be easily pushed open, and the creaking sound is like quickly swiping two lines with a fingernail on the blackboard. The walls of the wooden house are also made of rough wooden boards, which seem to have become mottled and cracked due to years of wind and rain. Some of the wooden boards have even decayed, and with a gentle press, they can sink in. Tang Mian opened the door and walked into the room, a decaying aura rushing towards her face. The light inside the house is slightly dim, and there is a basketball-sized hole on the roof. The only two windows were blocked by wooden boards, with only a hint of light passing through. There is a fireplace made of stone in the corner of the wooden house, and the inside of the fireplace is thick with dust. Mushrooms have already grown on the nearby firewood, beautiful yellow-green, obviously inedible. The owner, who had been around for a long time, had no intention of returning, and there were no furniture or metal objects in the empty wooden house. All that's left are spider webs and dust, as well as a piece of linen that doesn't show any color. The current temperature is not cold, so there should be no need to start a fire at night. For safety reasons, Tang Mian left the wooden house and searched for withered and fallen trees in the surrounding area, in case of emergency. Fire and clean water sources, even those who know nothing about survival in the wilderness, know that sunscreen is not the key. Tang Mian now has a hint of regret. When she first opened her eyes, she was in the pool, but she never thought about finding a container to bring some water and leave. Now she needs to search for clean water sources again, otherwise she should have died of thirst before starving. To be honest, Tang Mian doesn't think she can survive for 3 days at all because she doesn't have any wilderness survival experience and just occasionally enjoys watching other people's programs. As a flower in the greenhouse, oh no, as a waste in the greenhouse, what she often eats the most is instant noodles, or is she directly brewed with hot water from a water dispenser, saving time and effort. If I had known. As soon as Tang Mian started, she stopped talking. Life is not known early, even if she knew it would be today, she wouldn't have much time to learn about wilderness survival knowledge. The time that can be obtained by squeezing has long been wasted by those bosses who use their ideals as big cakes. This is the fate of working animals. What Tang Mian can still do now is to clean up a place in the cabin for rest before dark, rest overnight, and continue on her journey after dawn tomorrow. If you can find a fire and water source nearby, taking a few days off temporarily is also possible. Tang Mian returned to the small wooden house with the withered tree branches she had picked up. When she pushed the door, she felt that the wooden house was a bit shaky, and found that it was actually not very sturdy and a bit shaky. She placed the branch in the fireplace and then lifted her left hand, wanting to try using that extraordinary power. Quickly, Tang Mian's palm warmed slightly, and the green tattoo flashed by. The answer had already come to her subconscious. Safe, no danger. Tang Mian let go of her worries and found some broad leaves of grass to tie into a broom, giving the room a simple cleaning. Although she doesn't have a fetish for cleanliness, she has some OCD caused by her habits. As night fell, Tang Mian couldn't solve the fire problem with the legendary drill wood method, so she had to curl up next to the fireplace with a branch in her arms. The branch was found while picking up firewood, over 1 meter long, with 2 fingers thick and thin. It is unknown which plant it is and is stronger than other branches, but it does not have much weight. Tang Mian can hold it with one hand and is most suitable for self-defense. The unknown world and abnormal environment leave the bewildered community with no sense of security. The empty wooden boards were uncomfortable, and the musty smell in the air was hard to ignore. Tang Mian woke up, and then woke up again with the faint sound of horse hooves. Fez, look over there, there seems to be a room. It should be left by the previous hunters. Let's send them a signal and rest there tonight. Okay. After riding the horse all day, it's time to take a break. Tang Mian hugged the wooden stick tightly, unsure of how to deal with this situation. Wild mountains and forests, lonely women and unfamiliar men, all feel very dangerous when you think about them. She could only pray silently, as the other person would not notice someone hidden in the corner because it was getting dark. However, things went against expectations. Luke, this door won't open. There may be someone inside. How could it be? This place has already belonged to the Demon King's territory. How could they be willing to live with humans? It's because the door is broken, right? As a perennial tenant, locking the door at will is also a habit ingrained in one's bones, but now it has become a powerful evidence of exposing one's own existence. Can you use some force? It still can't be opened. There must be someone inside. Hey, is anyone there? Don't shout anymore, it would be terrible if we attract a warcraft. Tang Mian didn't expect visitors in the middle of the night, and the branch that reached the door was just casually placed. The man outside tossed back and forth a few times, and the branch tilted to the ground, losing its ability to resist. Hello, is anyone there? Tang Mian remained silent and dared not even move. 2 men, who were not particularly burly in stature, walked in one after another. The room was pitch black, and they couldn't see anything. But this is just a small issue. Flame. A man lowered his head and a small flame appeared in his hand. The warm light illuminated the small room and exposed Tang Mian, who was on guard in the corner. It startled me, there really was someone. The other man let out a strange cry. Hey, when we knocked on the door outside just now, why didn't you speak? Tang Mian pondered for a moment, only remembering that they were constantly pushing and pulling the door, without making any knocking behavior. She placed the wooden stick on her chest in a defensive position. Luke, you scared her, keep your voice down. The man holding a flame in his hand reminded his companion and turned to Tang Mian in a warm voice. We are knights, not bad people. We just want to rest here tonight, without any malice. Malicious things are not something that can be erased with just a snap of two lips. In this unknown environment, apart from his fellow countrymen wearing camouflage suits, Tang Mian would not treat any living creatures at all. Especially for these strangers wearing armor similar to that of medieval European knights in movies, it is even more difficult to distinguish between good and evil. Tang Mian still remembers some of the knowledge taught in history class, and the stories and accidents recorded by predecessors are everywhere that can be used as experiences. Even though the man in front of her deliberately slowed down his speaking speed, she still did not let down her guard. The words spoken by the other party sounded a bit strange. Tang Mian didn't think they were speaking English or German because she had already returned the knowledge taught in English class to the teacher and didn't spend money on learning a foreign language. Now, she can actually understand what the other party is saying. Can it be that I am a combination of satellite navigation and intelligent robots, and can also translate conversations with foreigners in real time? Fez frowned as he looked at the woman who was still on guard. His appearance appears sincere and reliable, and many people used to let go of their guard when they saw his face. Tang Mian in front of her was like a frightened deer, completely ignoring their expressions. Fez, she may be deaf or mute and can't understand what you're saying. Let's just take action. Loka is an impatient person. Looking at Tang Mian, he looks like a hungry wolf has found braised pork belly in brown sauce. Although there may be less fun without shouting, there's not much to worry about. He walked towards Tang Mian, reaching out to grab the woman's weapon. Come over, baby, make your Mr. Luke feel comfortable. Chapter 3. Refusal to give up. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Common techniques for women's self-defense. Buttonholes, kicking the crotch, forget the rest. In theory, attacking these two parts of the enemy is effective, and if the attack is heavy, one may also be charged with excessive defense. Fortunately, there are no surveillance cameras here, so it's still in the wilderness. In the eyes of the two men, the woman hiding in the corner is just a rabbit waiting to be slaughtered. But they forgot that when rabbits are forced to bite, they also bite people. If the timing is right, they can also kick the falcon to death with their hind legs. Tang Mian had a wooden stick in his hand for self-defense, with uneven fractures. The key was to be sturdy and durable. She scrutinized the armor of the two and quickly calculated how to deal with it. The height of the stranger man is about 1.75 meters. The armor is not the same as before, but rather several pieces of iron sewn on leather, only protecting important parts such as the neck, heart, arms, and knees. Without a hat, the eyes and crotch should be able to attack. It's really not possible, the temple behind the eyes seems to be a weakness. Tang Mian's thoughts were chaotic and complex, but in fact, she was in a state of panic. There is always a considerable margin of error between theoretical results and practical experience. Luke thought that the woman, seeing their burly figure and sturdy armor, had become so scared that her feet were limp and she froze in the corner, afraid to move. That broken wooden stick is just a disguise for bravado. He has a thin and long scar on his face, which looks fierce and difficult to deal with. He had already imagined the pleasure of grabbing the wooden stick and then pressing the woman against the wall to vent his desires, and saliva in his mouth couldn't help but overflow. Fez did not stop and allowed his companions to go and explore. Just as Luke was about to grab the stick, Tang Mian quickly slapped the back of the man's hand with the stick and then stabbed him in the eye with a thin, prickly cross-section. The strength is full, the gaze is fierce, the hand is agile, and there is no sign of panic. The life of a social animal is rich and colorful. Even in ordinary civilian work, one may encounter situations where the boss is chased and chopped off, and after the boss is chopped off, the employee is cut off. Not every boss will focus on how to squeeze employees, and occasionally there are a few who have unique preferences and want to achieve their childhood dreams. Tang Mian is not sure what the cause is. She heard a commotion and then someone shouted words like, "Kill someone." In order to save her life, she immediately hid in the nearby storage room and locked the door from inside. When there was no movement, she quietly opened the door and happened to see the thug holding a female colleague's neck as a hostage, with their back facing the door of the storage room. After thinking for a moment, Tang Mian chose to use a mop to knock his head from behind the thug, distracting his attention. Immediately after, the thug was unloaded by the police, thrown to the ground, and taken to the police car. Of course, the female colleague did not express gratitude afterwards. Instead, she wanted to sue Tang Mian on the grounds that she believed Tang Mian had not taken her safety into consideration during the assault and demanded that Tang Mian pay her for mental damages. Tang Mian recalled that she had never considered the safety of her female colleague at the time, because before she knocked down, an elderly police officer nodded at her. Say it again. She has no money to compensate. Fortunately, the authorities ultimately determined that Tang Mian's behavior was correct and rejected the colleague's complaint. However, since then, Tang Mian has added a rule after his never help life principle. Never meddle in anything. Even if someone points at and scolds cold-blooded and ruthless. You despicable peasant woman, you dare to resist me. Returning to this moment, Luke held a winning mentality and did not believe that the other party had the courage to resist. He was first hurt in the hand by the beating, and then scared back by the stick being stabbed. He felt embarrassed and angrily drew out his sword. I want you to taste my prowess. The emergence of cold weapons made Tang Mian more puzzled about the world he was currently in, but it was clearly not the time to think. Later on, she may be split into several pieces by cold weapons and cooked into broth. But before that, she could still use a wooden stick to poke a man's eyeball and then perform an castration surgery for them. The kind that doesn't require money. Wait, Luke, don't be impulsive. Fez clearly noticed the ferocity in the woman's eyes, which was different from the peasant women he had seen before. He quickly stopped his companions and comforted them gently. Let me do it, I want to give it a try again. After speaking, without waiting for his companions to respond, Fitz walked towards the woman. What's your name? Where do you come from? Fez slowed down his voice to appear gentle and harmless. Do you have a home? Where have your parents gone? Tang Mian watched as the man holding a flame walked forward and quickly retreated. However, behind her was a wooden wall with no way out. Fez, this is the Demon Lord's mansion, not the tavern in the city. She's just a lost peasant woman, don't waste your time. Lauk exclaimed discontentedly. If we drag on any longer, the captain and his team will come over. There won't be any more of us then. The knight named Fez hesitated for a moment, then threw the flame into the fireplace and lit the dry firewood inside. Luke blinked his eyes a few times, showing the same expression as before, and raised his thumb to his companion. They no longer paid attention to Tang Mian, but each found a place to sit down, began to take off their armor and shoes, and even took off their long sword from their waist. These movements may seem natural, but their gaze always intentionally or unintentionally glances at the woman next to the fireplace. Tang Mian frowned and quickly noticed the scorching heat coming from the fireplace licking her exposed skin. Although it was night and the inside was slightly cooler than the outside due to dampness, it was not yet enough to require a fireplace for heating. Two commonly used idioms suddenly popped up in her mind. Throw oneself into the net and wait for the rabbit. From the results, it appears that these two knights wanted to use warmth to force Tang Mian out of hiding next to the fireplace. A similar flirtatious operation was once done by a blind man. The person said they wanted to invite Tang Mian to watch a movie and walked to the cinema door, asking if she was afraid of ghosts. After receiving the answer of fear, he forcibly dragged Tang Mian to watch a horror movie, saying it was to experience the pleasure of Tang Mian getting into his arms because of fear. That man still claims that he just wants to be close, without any malice, and will comfort her well when the time comes. Tang Mian refused to go, and the blind man immediately loudly accused her of not understanding the love between couples, making him feel very embarrassed. Then she ended her first blind date and left her at the entrance of the cinema on her own. Of course, Tang Mian received more than 2 weeks of scolding afterwards, citing impoliteness, not knowing how to regulate the atmosphere, and even throwing a face at the other party. Until the information of the next blind date man appeared on her mother's phone. Ah, man. Tang Mian held the wooden stick without moving, still very wary of the two. She dared not shift her gaze and could only silently recite the abnormality in her palm in her heart. In fact, she had no idea whether this was useful or not. Fortunately, this time the heavens favored her, and the warmth in her palm was an abnormal reminder to her. The danger is right in front of us, the exit is behind us. Behind me. Tang Mian quietly leaned back, and the wooden boards behind him made a slight creaking sound. The firewood in the fireplace crackled, obscuring her small movements and not catching the attention of the knights. Tang Mian suddenly remembered that this was a wooden house that had been in disrepair for a long time. The wooden boards used had already decayed, and although they could still support it, they probably couldn't withstand too much impact. Does the meaning of having the exit behind her mean that she will bump into a way out? Chapter 4. Witches Cannot Provoke. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After determining the escape plan, Tang Mian immediately turned around and crashed into the wooden wall. The decaying wood let out a mournful cry, and with the full effort of the livestock, a large hole was opened. The already unstable and dilapidated wooden house struggled a few times before collapsing with a loud bang. The two knights who had just realized had not had time to get up when they were hit straight by falling wooden boards and beams. Coincidentally, all the wood in the entire room collapsed towards the center, and the two knights sat in the center of the house. They were supposed to block people there. Tang Mian threw herself out of the house, rolled around a few times, and quickly stood up, running towards the depths of the dense forest without looking back. Her palms were hot, her heart was beating like a drum, and every beat reminded her to escape from here as soon as possible. Damn lowly people, look at what you've done. The knights' curses were drowned out by the collapsed wooden house, and Tang Mian dared not relax at all. She knew that the broken wood would not cause too much damage to the two strong men, even if they were less than 1.75 meters. But as long as there are men with deep-rooted flaws, they will not easily give up on sending their prey to their doorstep and causing them to lose face. Hey, little girl, don't run away. We really have no ill intentions, we just want to make friends with you. The owner of this voice should be named Fez, and Tang Mian doesn't care. She won't believe a word of what these two people say. She is a social animal who has been struggling in a hellish society for several years, not a naive and ignorant little girl. Tang Mian can bet on more than 30 blind dates she has participated in since work. Even if a man says such things, no matter how sincere they seem, their evil thoughts are still as ugly as the things in their hometown's dry toilet. The tattoo on the palm is as red as blood, with a burning sensation. The emerald green at the end emitted a sporadic chill, trying to help Tang Mian's heart, which was about to jump to the throat, calm down. There is no road in the direction indicated by the greenery, and dense leaves and branches constantly beat against her face and body. The scorching pain from the soles of her feet makes the woman who runs barefoot even more afraid. Tang Mian dared not stop and ran forward with all her might. The direction indicated by the tattoo is not straightforward and may change direction from time to time. The pitch-black and dark night, as well as the half-human tall bushes and grass, covered the figure of the fugitive. Tang Mian couldn't actually see the palm of his hand, but he could clearly feel the abnormal presence. Perhaps it was someone who installed a satellite navigation system in her palm with an intelligent hazard warning. No, here comes a new reminder. Down. Tang Mian couldn't think much and instinctively squatted down to hug her head. A wind blade whistled past, slicing the grass leaves around her into neat flat heads. Fez, take it easy. I don't want to play with a woman covered in blood. The man's voice was full of vitality, obviously not damaged too much. Luke, did you see her running in any direction? Fez's tone lowered slightly, obviously suppressing his anger. She may not be a human, she's disguised as a warcraft, so we can't let her run away. I can't see clearly. The sound should be on this side. It's too dark. Do you want to chase after it? Luke's tone was somewhat hesitant. Late night is the time for warcraft activities, and if we run out, we may get lost. Tang Mian doesn't know what this place is, which doesn't mean these two knights don't know. They are knights who came out to fight against warcraft. Due to some accidents, they had to go deep into the compound of the Demon King Ridge. Some of their companions were seriously injured, resulting in slow movements. Luke and Fitz were sent out as the vanguard to search for a temporary resting place for the team. I thought I was lucky and had an unexpected joy, but I didn't expect my guard to be too high. I crashed into a house and ran away. It's better not to go, maybe she has already been bitten to death by the warcraft. Luke didn't want to leave the safe zone. Although the small wooden house collapsed, the flat ground in front of it was enough for more than 10 people to rest. The late-night breeze rustled the leaves and vegetation, and Tang Mian sensed the danger was lifted. She quickly crawled forward for a few steps. The consciousness emanating from her palm is still downward, but beneath her is the land. How to move further down? Thinking like this, Tang Mian suddenly felt empty under her feet and her body lost balance. She instinctively wanted to grab the grass leaves around her to stabilize her figure, but those leaves slid through her hands like flowing water, unable to provide any support. Fortunately, the pit was not deep, and Tang Mian rolled a few laps to the end. She gritted her teeth and refrained from shouting out loud. The coldness in her palm reminded her to walk backwards. After staying for a long time in the pitch-black and dark night, Tang Mian had adapted to the darkness. She turned around and could barely see that there was a not-too-deep pit there, which was just enough to accommodate her. Not long after entering, Tang Mian heard the howling sound of wind blades and the sound of grass leaves falling again. And a conversation between two male knights. Fez, don't look, she should have already run far. My mother once said that women living in the mountains and forests are particularly good at running. What's wrong, Fitz? If we go any further, we won't be able to see where the wooden house is. Luke, did you notice her clothes? What's wrong with the gray-black long clothes and pants? This is how ordinary people wear them. Women from ordinary backgrounds wear coarse linen, and although her clothes are gray, the material should be fine cotton. Is she the daughter of a merchant family, but so what? Luke, besides merchants, there is another type of person who can wear fine cotton, which is the witch. Fez, you're joking. Luke's voice was like a jumping goose, sharp and frightened. You said what we wanted to topple just now was a witch who could curse. If the captain finds out, we will be whipped. That's why I said I can't let her run away. Compared to his companions, Fitz's voice was much calmer and more bloody. We need to find her, kill her, and bury her, so no one knows what we've done. But today is a moonless night, with no light shining. What are we doing? Luke's voice became increasingly irritable and anxious. When did you discover it? Why didn't you tell me in time? What should we do now? If she escapes, she will definitely follow us back to the city and slaughter the entire town. Luke, stop it. This is the forest, don't use flame magic. The pit where Tang Mian was hiding was not far from the two knights, and their conversation could be heard clearly. Although there is not much useful information, it is shocking enough. As a ground beetle social animal fighting with PPT after graduation, magic is also something that should only appear in film special effects. But now, social animals have begun to waver. She can accept being installed with satellite navigation in her palm, or being kidnapped and made into a bio-human, but never thought of an even more unlikely possibility. Ordinary social animals have been reincarnated from an altar-like building on their desks due to a heart attack. The probability of this happening is lower than the likelihood of her winning both the big lottery and the double colorball championship at the same time. Chapter 5. Being allowed to live because it is useful. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Fitz, Luke, where are you? The distant shout indicated that the large army had arrived, and the knight who was chasing the woman had to give up tracking and walk towards the direction of the sound. When asked later, let's say we're driving away nearby monsters, don't mention that woman. But she is a witch, concealing the witch's whereabouts is a serious crime. I was just speculating earlier, but now thinking about it, maybe she's just a lost peasant woman. As you can see, she has no reaction to my flame magic. What about her attitude? How could an ordinary peasant woman resist so strongly? Perhaps I have seen many of them. Women who can move around in the Demon King Ridge may have met many men before, which is why they are so scared when they see men. Well, if you think that way, it makes sense. Fitz, you're still smart. Remember, we must bite her to death. Even if she really is a witch in the future, anything we do without knowing will not become a crime. You're right. She's just a lowly peasant woman, we haven't even met her. The sound gradually drifted away, and Tang Mian hid in the pit, feeling the diamond-shaped tattoo in her palm gradually turning into a cold green. Wait a little longer, the danger will be lifted. The world is fair and the law of the fittest prevails. She used the darkness and vegetation to avoid a fatal crisis, but also lost the opportunity to accuse the other party of their crimes. Or rather, she has no chance at all, just like the boss can deduct her performance bonus for any reason. The weak do not have the right to live well, and the reason why they can still live is because the strong need someone who is easily exploited. Just like how you still need to pay the company when you go to work now, and how you need to compensate the original company for training fees when changing jobs, it's just like pulling a calf. Tang Mian only crawled out of the pit when the heat no longer emanated from her palms. She was confused inside for a while, almost forgetting the danger not far away. Getting up and moving around with numb hands and feet, Tang Mian turned around and looked towards the direction of the wooden house, wanting to see if those over there would notice her. However, the behemoth behind her was staring at her with round and big eyes. Tang Mian saw these eyes and immediately felt cold hands and feet. Is this a warcraft? It looks like a long-haired wolf, or a wolf with dark purple fur and eerie dark patterns. Although Tang Mian defined the creature in front of him as a wolf between huskies and Slavic dogs, now is not the time to think about it. The satellite navigation with a danger warning in her palm did not show any movement at all, as if it had turned off. Just escaped the persecution of the knights, are we going to bury the wolf again now? Tang Mian felt extremely desperate, she really didn't know how to fight against wild animals. Climbing trees. She can't do it. And the wolf was on the top of the pit 1 meter in front of her, jumping down from above and accurately without adjusting the direction and angle. I'm not tasty, there's no meat. After holding it for a while, Tang Mian finally uttered such a sentence. She decided that if the creature pounced on her, she would squat down, straighten the wooden stick, and stab it to death with its weight. If not successful, she will be the wolf for breakfast today. I hope there is no rare animal protection law in this place. The wolf-like creature with purple fur flicked its tail, seemingly not in a hurry to eat. I saw it stretch lazily, jump off the side of the pit, and sit in front of Tang Mian. This scene is really familiar to the eye. What's different is that this large creature sitting one head taller than Tang Mian didn't rush to attack, just waited motionless, with its tail swinging back and forth behind it. The biggest advantage that the pet industry can rise to is that humans find it difficult to resist the temptation of furry fur. Tang Mian couldn't hold on for too long before letting go of her guard and reaching out to touch the wolf's fur. The large creature with deep purple fur lowers its head, allowing small humans who cannot reach its chin to touch its nose bridge. The soft fur instantly made people fall, and Tang Mian buried her whole body in the furry fur. The wolf did not stop, but waited for a while before reaching out and patting its neck. A yellowed paper fell out of the soft long hair, rolled into a tube, tied with a rope, and landed right on Tang Mian's head. Tang Mian quickly opened it and saw a more complex map. There are many lines, triangles and squares drawn on the map, only a few circles, and 2 crosses. In the upper right corner of the map, there is a pattern with arrows and text, which roughly expresses the direction. The wolf extended its front paw, pointing towards a triangular symbol and making a short whimper. After a moment of contemplation, Tang Mian tentatively asked, "Do you want to say that we are currently near this triangle?" The answer should be correct. The wolf's tail quickly flicked a few times, and its front paw pointed towards a circle, making a short moan again. "Do you want to go here?" This time, it's Tang Mian's turn to face difficulties. She was originally literate and graduated from a bachelor's degree, but now she has become illiterate because the words in this world look like entangled earthworms, completely incomprehensible. The only hope is the navigation in the palm of your hand. If it is really navigation. Tang Mian took a deep breath and then summoned the imprint of her palm. Continuous use made her feel that this thing was like an extra organ growing out of her body, much more useful than the appendix, and wouldn't cause inflammation. As for how to distinguish direction, there are also methods available. This is the south, this is the north. Does your map refer to the north? The purple long-haired wolf knows how to read maps, while Tang Mian can discern directions. As long as they can communicate, they can solve the problem in front of them. As expected, the wolf reached out its paw and patted the map, turning the paper half a circle. The direction of the map is reversed. Now, the destination has been determined and the satellite navigation is in place. The wolf lay down in front of Tang Mian and gestured for her to climb onto her back. As Tang Mian sat down excitedly, one wolf and one person embarked on the journey. What she didn't know was that not far away, on the site of the old cabin, Luke and Fitz were looking at the captain with a gloomy face in terror. Their lies have been exposed, and the fleeing woman was found by the captain's pet and confirmed as a witch. Let's set off now and follow behind them. The burly captain, with a grim face, gave orders to his subordinates and didn't forget to stare at the 2 people who caused trouble. If that witch still wants to demand revenge, I'll twist off the heads of both of you and kick her as a ball. In the jurisdiction of Count Fraser, there is a highly valued law. As long as the witch has not committed any acts of injury or robbery, no one or organization can intentionally harm them. If violated, any demands made by the witch will be met. Chapter 6. Female Knights. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The journey of the purple wolf and the witch was very smooth, and some even went too far. Tang Mian is responsible for pointing out the direction and informing the wolf of the detected danger. The tall wolf-like creature reluctantly chose the name Gakli among a series of names such as Jerry, Tom, Little White, Wong Wong, etc., to facilitate the witch's call to it. Tang Mian's human flesh satellite navigation can also search for clean water sources, edible fruits, and find small prey suitable for Gakli's belly, so as not to become dinner again. And Gakli, it can ignite a fire and turn into a small pot and dried salted meat. It's more about space magic than about change. Tang Mian was stunned at the sight. How did you do it? She peeled off Gakali's purple hair and found nothing but slightly purple skin. This is amazing, isn't it? The long-haired wolf allows humans to scratch its fur, and its flapping tail shows that it is happy and proud. Even animals that cannot speak like to hear praise and praise. Gakali doesn't walk very fast and sometimes takes the initiative to stop and rest. Once, it seemed to sense something and put Tang Mian down before leaving. When I came back, several pieces of paper with the same material as the map appeared, with several types of plants painted on them, and even some colors painted on them. The paper is wet, indicating that these pictures have just been drawn. The appearance of Gakali was artificial, and someone was following them. Although Tang Mian was addicted to the fuzz, she was clear in her heart that she had never been the chosen child, not before, and not now. The reason why she is still alive is probably because she still has value to be utilized. That's all. Now, it's time for her to showcase her value. Tang Mian picked up a picture and the navigation in her hand immediately changed direction. According to the original route, they should be heading southwest. Now, the diamond-shaped tattoo points towards the northwest direction and is all bright red. The route is not right, and there should be a lot of danger over there. She placed the paper in front of Gakali, marked the direction with carbonized branches, and squeezed out a red berry, spreading the juice next to the direction. The second one is in the north, and the color is red to black. The danger over there is even greater. It shouldn't be the location of the Demon King, right? Gakali let out a brief cry, and before Tang Mian could mark it, he burned half of the paper. Perhaps this is its annotation method. The third piece of paper depicts a small grass with serrations on its leaves, which looks very similar to the leaves of a dandelion. This time, Tang Mian's navigation failed and nothing was found. There's no such grass here, I can't sense its presence at all. She placed the paper again in front of Gakali and apologized. Sorry, I couldn't help you. Tang Mian's former boss often said. If you can do it, if you can't do it, get lost. I recruited you to help me solve difficulties, not to make you create difficulties. Some people are not afraid of hardship or fatigue, crying and shouting that they want to work. They voluntarily work overtime, but even though you have many affectations, you still want overtime pay and travel expenses. Not long after, Tang Mian was laid off. But now, she still hasn't been able to solve the difficulties, and she's even prepared to be discarded. Just consider it as being laid off again. Surprisingly, there are no dandelions here. It should be a very common type of grass. Gakali originally wanted to retrieve 3 pieces of paper, but when he heard Tang Mian's doubts, he paused. It extended its paw and patted the paper with dandelions, turning the painting around. The meaning is that you are looking in the wrong direction, just like looking at a map. Tang Mian immediately understood. This is not grass, is it the leaves on the tree? Gakali patted the ground with his paws again and answered incorrectly. It's not grass, it's not leaves. What else can there be in the forest? Is this a type of mushroom? Gakali didn't extend his paw this time, but shook his tail twice. The answer is correct, but Tang Mian's mood is somewhat complicated. Who is a good mushroom that looks like a dandelion and can't cross species to split its legs? Of course, these words can only be thought about in his heart. Tang Mian focused and used his abilities again. Satellite navigation quickly gave the answer, slanting upwards, no danger. Tang Mian looked up and saw mushrooms hanging upside down on the branches. Sure enough, it's not a serious mushroom. Gakali also saw it, and he didn't rush to jump up to pick it. Instead, he peed under the tree. Then, it put away the pieces of paper on the ground and carried Tang Mian away. Tang Mian turned around to look, but did not see anyone else appear. Anyway, she can survive again. A few more days later, Tang Mian and Gakali finally walked out of the forest and arrived on the road with obvious traces of the carriage. Seeing the dirt road without asphalt and stones, her eyes couldn't help but darken a lot. The worst thing is that the world is no longer the familiar one, and more than 30 years of life experience will become useless waste paper, and even the three perspectives may be reshaped. Tang Mian's understanding of time travel is somewhat different from that of ordinary people. She reads news and novels while squatting in the toilet, fully understanding the importance of law and peace. The appearance of those two knights was already a wake-up call for her, as in this unfamiliar world, her original cognition may undergo a disruptive change. Don't underestimate the ancients, or rather, don't underestimate anyone. Tang Mian touched Gakali's soft hair and made some modifications to the words on it. Don't underestimate any living creatures. Gakali, carrying Don Mian, didn't pay attention to the creature on his back. It sniffed carefully against the wind, barked lightly towards the distance, and suddenly ran wildly. Tang Mian quickly adjusted her posture to prevent herself from being thrown down. Lightning, why are you here alone, Grim? The knight Bea's horse suddenly became restless, and then she saw the source of the unease. Stormwind Wolf Lightning is the favorite of Knight Grim and can use magic. Most horses are afraid of it. Tang Mian poked her head out of Gakali's thick hair and watched as the armored female knight across from her turned from a face full of surprise to a face full of frost. Lightning, who is she? Gakali stopped and sat down in front of Bea, letting Don Mian on his back slide down his hair. It pushed Tang Mian towards Bia, as if to entrust her to the female knight. Woo! This short bark was shouted by Lightning at the female knight. Bea pondered for a moment, then dismounted and asked. Did Grim ask you to come and ask me to take her back to the city? Woo! Tang Mian saw the ice and frost melt instantly, shining brightly like flowers. Don't worry, I will take her back safely. Chapter 7. Word and Example. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Compared to Knight Grim leading the team to the dangerous Demon Lord's territory, Knight Bea's task is to lead a team to escort a noble prince from the Count of Fraser's territory. As for why this great figure suddenly appeared within the territory of the Count, and why he went to the adjacent territory of the Earl of Edry. The confident and upright female knight said that she should not ask too much about things she shouldn't be curious about. The more she knows, the earlier she will swallow her anger. For this reason, she repeatedly warned her teammates before departure that the important figure in the carriage had an extremely noble identity and must complete the task to the highest standard. The highest standard means fast speed, good efficiency, and not the slightest neglect of important people. If it's not necessary, it's best not to foolishly approach others, so as not to implicate them in trouble. The prestige of the female knight was obviously very high, and her teammates were full of energy, not daring to have any objections, and even arrived at their destination one day ahead of schedule. It can be seen from Count Eddie, who is clearly suffering but still showing extra honor in scoring, that Bea's decision is incredibly correct. After watching Count Adelie leave with the Cavaliers, Bea and her teammates dared to completely relax. Seeing ample time, Bea agreed to her teammates' request and prepared to hunt in the forest near the Demon King Ridge for a day, bringing some wild animals back. Although Warcraft is fierce, their combat desire is relatively low outside of the beast tide period, only slightly stronger than ordinary beasts, making them the most suitable for hand training. Moreover, Warcraft is full of treasures, and after dissection, it can be exchanged for a considerable amount of money. Bea is not a stubborn and conservative person either. She doesn't mind letting her team members earn a little extra money in their spare time. Of course, there are unwritten rules for this type of hunting, and whoever hits it will be their own, and can only rely on their own strength, not open competition. Bea had just shot a deer-shaped monster when Grim's lightning caught her. What's your name? After Lightning left, the female knight immediately entered the interrogation process. How did you get to know Grim? Tang Mian had never heard of the name Grim, nor had he seen this person. Since the female knight asked so, it seems that he is the owner of Gakali or a human with close relationships. Not meeting her may be inseparable from the two self-proclaimed knights, Fitz and Luke, whom we met. Is it to avoid responsibility? Since that's the case, why not choose to kill her directly like those two people? Isn't it more convenient and convenient? Whether in terms of physique or strength, Tang Mian is confident that he is not a match for Gakali. At most, it's a pancake fruit. I'm asking you a question, have you heard me? Bea harbors considerable hostility towards this potential threat, and her tone becomes more aggressive. Tang Mian didn't care about these things. She was pondering whether to tell the truth or lie that it would be safer to have a one-sided relationship with Grimm. Can relying solely on the friendship of an animal guarantee that she will not be harmed maliciously again? Or would it be better to continue pretending to be mute? I don't know, I haven't met the person you mentioned. Tang Mian ultimately chose to be honest. After all, knights are companions, and sooner or later they will meet. Lies can easily be exposed. However, BIA didn't seem to be too surprised by this answer, but rather seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. So you've only seen the wolf just now? Seeing Tang Mian nod, the female knight became much more enthusiastic. Don't worry, I will take you to the city. You are now safe. Unexpectedly, Tang Mian remained expressionless, but secretly exclaimed in her heart. Is it true that unfamiliar people are the correct answer, but if they have, they will be mistaken for rivals in love? Is it difficult to believe that there is still a life-saving grace here, and it is important to make a commitment with one's own life? Tang Mian murmured in his heart. Sure enough, we cannot rely solely on our original cognition. Bea took Tang Mian to a flat ground surrounded by endless grasslands. Their team had agreed in advance to use this place as their place of stay for tonight. Everyone has gone hunting and will come back later. You and we will rest here for a night, and we can return to the city tomorrow. The female knight distributed some dry food and water to Tang Mian, and summoned a pigeon-sized bird. This is my war pet, named Down, it will protect you. After speaking, Bia mounted her horse again and left. On the way to the campsite, she found some fresh feces from Warcraft, thinking that there might be a lonely big guy over there. The commission must be completed, and hunting cannot be left behind. Who can't get along with money? Tang Mian was left at the station, staring at a pigeon with golden feathers. The female knight's war pet is not afraid of people, and walks up to Tang Mian's side to ask for a share of dry food. Tang Mian did not refuse and broke off a small piece of the hard cake in her hand to give it, while also touching the smooth feather. It seems no different from the pigeon in my impression, at most it doesn't keep cooing. Tang Mian remembered in his history textbook that there was a type of raptor called Haidonking, which could hunt geese and swans. It is said that it was once used by ancient nobles as a symbol of status, and even regarded as a totem. However, the female knight's pet is actually a pigeon. What's the use of laying pigeon eggs to repair her body? For greenhouse animals who know nothing about Warcraft, this doubt should have been left for a long time to be answered, but God clearly prefers to lead by example. The location chosen by the knights, although relatively safe and able to easily detect medium to large carnivorous animals, cannot resist a small, agile animal. A round-nosed snake insect hid in the grass and stared at the plump-looking ground pigeon, trying to glide closer silently. Tang Mian was struggling with hard dry food, and the crumbs she struggled to bite had no odor. She was completely unaware of the danger approaching. After all, the snake's target was not her, and the abnormality in her palm did not give the owner any warning. As a war pet, Pigeon Down noticed the ominous aura early on and reacted first. Only a strong crackling sound was heard, and the patterned long worm revealed its true form, constantly twisting and rolling in the nearby grass, painfully curling up its body repeatedly. Tang Mian was startled and quickly hid away from the snake. Down, however, appeared very calm, waiting in place for the attacker to breathe, completely unlike a pigeon used for stewing soup. These days, pigeons can also emit lightning. Maybe mosquitoes can perform Thomas roundabout kicks at 360 degrees. The greenhouse animals silently drew a line in their hearts, don't underestimate any living creatures, to show the key point. As the saying goes, seeing is better than hearing. Is there anything more damaging than this? Chapter 8. Manifestation of Disadvantages. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The appearance of the snake made Tang Mian realize that abnormal palms are not omnipotent. She actively uses this power when searching for water and food. However, while in the cabin, the malice of both knights was aimed at Tang Mian, so the abnormality gave a warning of danger. Similarly, the purple-haired Gakli had no ill intentions towards Don Mian from beginning to end. Even if it had already stood behind her, there would be no warning of abnormalities. There is a very clear and distinct difference in the activation conditions between active and passive skills. Tang Mian looked at the empty palm of her left hand in a daze. At this moment, the tattoo had not yet appeared, but she could clearly feel this unusual force. Who are you and why are you sitting here? A team member who had gained a lot returned and saw that the agreed-upon location had been taken first. His joy was immediately extinguished. Are you a civilian nearby? Hurry up and leave, this is not where you should stay. Tang Mian was dressed in gray clothes and barefoot, so she didn't look like a nobleman no matter what. Fortunately, she has physical evidence this time. Tang Mian quickly returned to the side of Dove Down and carefully chose a location further away from the dead snake corpse. Hey, isn't this the captain's down? So you were brought by the captain, why didn't you say it earlier? As the old saying goes, the more you say, the more mistakes you make. Tang Mian's current values are in a period of reshaping, and she dare not say a word more. She doesn't even know whether she has traveled or been reborn, whether her species has changed, and whether this world is a nightmare. These are all issues. But you can't just ask people. In the era when knights existed in textbooks, the most popular activity was to burn down heretics. This foolish act of falling into the trap is absolutely unacceptable. Fortunately, this team member was not interested in Tang Mian, and she focused all her attention on organizing her games. Tang Mian glanced at her behavior and a new doubt arose. She remembered that Gakli could suddenly transform into a pot, thinking that there might be spatial magic, perhaps even more common, the kind that could be handled by each person. However, the female knight in front of her chose to tie her prey onto a horse's back, clearly without such means. Looking it down again, it defeated the snake with magic, but did not choose to eat or put it away, but let the body lie there. I don't know if it's because the skin and meat of snakes have no economic value here, or because Down doesn't use space magic. By the way, can this space storage magic, known as the essential golden finger for crossing, exist in this world? Shauna, you came back so early. Who is she? Another team member has returned, and the problem is similar. Shauna, who came back first, nodded to her companions and answered casually. It was brought back by the captain, and she still had Down accompany her. Although pigeons have combat power, their small stature is clearly not easily noticeable. As night fell, Baya's team members returned one after another, and the last one to return was Baya. She brought back a half-sized bear-shaped monster. The team members exclaimed and praised the captain's bravery. Tang Mian was even more surprised by the method of transporting prey. A dead bear and a dead deer are tied together, and the rope used to secure them is a flat strap with complex patterns on it. The female knight did not put her prey on the horse's back, but instead brought back the suspended prey in mid-air like pulling a hydrogen balloon. If we replace the bear-shaped prey with a cow-shaped one, Tang Mian suddenly remembered an ancient meme. Why do cows fly in the sky? Because someone is blowing on the ground. At this moment, Tang Mian's eyes were filled with bears floating in mid-air, but his mind was filled with cows flying side by side. I'm afraid I won't be able to sleep well tonight. Tang Mian sat silently in the corner, revealing a helpless bitter smile. "Captain, did you find her?" The curious team member couldn't hold back and lowered his voice to inquire about the captain. "What kind of person is she?" There are not many knights from a civilian background, and Bea can become a captain, with both strength and status ranking among the top. The most important thing is to have a flexible mind and a tight mouth. "She is a delegate." Bea smiled and blinked, not saying too much to her companions. "Just treat her as a transparent person, don't provoke her." The female knight captain was hunting while pondering the intentions of her lover. Not having too much contact, but treating each other with courtesy. Lightning is a powerful stormwind wolf with combat power comparable to a mid-range knight. Grimm was carrying out a mission in the dangerous demon lord's territory, but allowed the demon wolf to come out and send people away. This ambiguous attitude, excluding the romantic relationship during her first love, only led Bea to think of another possibility. Tang Mian is a witch and a dangerous presence. For the indigenous people of this world, casting magic is just as common as eating and drinking water. But magic casting requires learning, and most people still rely on magic tools to cast magic. Magic tool craftsmen and alchemists are very popular professions. On the path of studying magic, various schools of thought are like flowers, constantly blooming and withering, yet emerging endlessly. However, witches are an unchanging anomaly. They can cast very complex magic, but they themselves may only be illiterate, or even babies who cannot speak clearly. If asked how they did it, the answers are vastly different. "I don't know, suddenly one day it will happen." Countless scholars were struck by this statement, and witches were believed to have signed contracts with the Demon King for a long time, becoming targets of annihilation. Later, scholars gradually discovered that most witches only know one or two types of magic, and if they want to cast others, they still need to learn from scratch. Another drawback of witches is that they are only discovered after their extermination activities have been discontinued for a long time, which is their short lifespan. Although they possess magical skills that ordinary people may never achieve in their lifetime, they are unable to live long. Most witches experience a mental breakdown around the age of 40 and end up committing suicide. This phenomenon is known as the curse of witches. Later on, another type of rumor gradually became popular. The magic of witches can bring prosperity, and their curses can take away evil. Every once in a while, the monsters in the demon lord's realm become irritable and frenzied, forming a wave of beasts that rush out of the forest and launch almost suicidal attacks on human cities. A large part of Count Fraser's territory borders the demon lord's territory, so it is more severely affected by the beast tide. Many years ago, a powerful witch helped Count Fraser resist the beast tide and prevent the destruction of the city. Therefore, the current Earl of Fraser firmly believed in this rumor, and in order to make the territory more prosperous, he even issued a law that was very biased towards witches, in order to win their favor and attract them to settle down. As the captain of the Earl's first knight, Grimm naturally would not allow his subordinates to openly harm the witch just because of a momentary worm's brain. Chapter 9. Disguise. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bea's warning clearly had an effect, and the remaining girls ignored Tang Mian. Tang Mian attempted to use the abnormality of using her palm, but found that 4 of the 7 female knights held hostility or malice towards her. Bea is also one of them, but not the most hostile one. If we use physical objects to describe this feeling, Tang Mian's first thought is the music fountain, which can fluctuate high and low. But what can this be? The mind grows on someone else's head, and it's their freedom to think about everything they want. Tang Mian's stick has been lost on the way here, and now he only has half a hard cake in his hand, which was given by the female knight. The 7 armored female knights each wore weapons and rode horses, and the disparity in strength could not be smoothed out by strategy and on-sight reactions. Fortunately, Bea did not break her promise. The next evening, the group returned to the city of Fraser built on the mountain. The guards guarding the city clearly knew the female knights and quickly pushed away the civilians coming and going, making way for the knights. After entering the city, Bea disbanded the team and asked everyone to go back to their homes to deal with the spoils of war. She took Tang Mian and the floating bear to a place like a shop. "Good afternoon, Knight Bea, what do you need?" "My prey needs to be dealt with, and also, I want to find Chairman Dick." "Okay, I'll just pass it on." The adult lady in the shop was agile and quickly called out a man wearing a leather apron from behind. He untied the ropes that bound the bears and deer, and carried them back to their original path. Tang Mian noticed that after the flat rope was untied, bears and deer would no longer float in mid-air, so the key to floating lies in those ropes. "Bea, are you looking for me?" "What's up?" President Dick is a drunken middle-aged man holding a wine bottle in his hand. The strong smell of alcohol had already spread before the others approached. The female knight seemed accustomed to it. She pulled Tang Mian up to her and said, "President, please conduct an appraisal for her." "What kind of appraisal needs me to do?" Before President Dick could finish speaking, he immediately understood. "You're talking about that." Bea nodded silently and then looked around to observe the surroundings. Tang Mian was confused and didn't know what these two people were fighting for. "Come with me." President Dick walked back to his room with Don Mian and Bea, where there was only one table, a few chairs, and several wine barrels. It seems that this president has a particular fondness for alcoholic beverages. The president rummaged behind the barrel for a while and found a stone slab the size of a book with many patterns on it. Tang Mian noticed that there was a finger-thick side of the slate, with a green line sandwiched in the middle, like a sandwich. "Come on, put your hands up." President Dick placed the slate on the table, and another colored crystal the size of a little finger was placed on the slate before he called Tang Mian over. "Yes, put your hands here." Tang Mian extended her right hand this time. After a moment, both the sides and the patterns on top of the slate emitted a gentle white color. Originally, there were colorful translucent crystals, but now they also appeared as opaque pure white. She is indeed a witch, with a magical capacity similar to that of a third-level magician. Even in a drunken state, President Dick still efficiently completed his work. "Little girl, what's your name? Do you have any special abilities, such as being strong and running fast, being able to fly, or seeing a group of little people dancing in front of you?" Tang Mian deeply doubted whether the origin of witches came from a place rich in fungi. However, this question can be considered later, and now we need to answer the president's question. Tang Mian thought about similar issues on the way back with Bea. After all, it was already confirmed that the appearance of the wolf was under someone's command, and her abilities had already been revealed to others. But what should be said, to be able to distinguish direction, or to perceive malice and danger? I can distinguish directions and find things. As long as it's something I've seen or understood, I can sense the approximate location. Through perception, Tang Mian realized that the president had no ill intentions towards her, but Bea's hostility increased significantly. Therefore, one cannot say everything, at least half should be hidden. Distinguishing direction should be something that even ordinary people can do. Looking up can see the stars, looking down can see the growth rings, but it may not be unique enough. If the ability to search for things is used well, others can also benefit, and with the blessing of altruism, I believe my own survival problem can be solved. As for distinguishing between malice and danger, let's take it as a trump card for survival. Searching for things is actually a very practical ability. Bea and President Dick clearly thought the same way, and they also conducted a test to ask Don Mian to find the hidden colored crystals. After a moment, Tang Mian found it in the gap between the two wine barrels. "If I take you to the mine, can you find a gold mine?" Being too altruistic also has its drawbacks, and indigenous people are also capable of divergent thinking. Tang Mian quickly shook her head desperately. "I have only found mushrooms and wild fruits." Although the ability is useful, there are also significant limitations. President Dick pondered for a moment before asking a new question. Do you have any discomfort, such as wanting to sing, dance, or shout? Tang Mian only felt 3 black lines hanging on his forehead. Isn't this witch really from some place that produces bacteria? Despite that, she did think of one. I have forgotten many things and don't know why I was in the forest. This statement is both true and false. Tang Mian clearly knows who she is, where she comes from, and remembers all her experiences from childhood to adulthood. But why she appeared here is an unsolved mystery. Sometimes she even doubts whether her memory is real, and whether she might be an experimental product created by some genius or pervert. After all, this is how it is portrayed in movies. Tang Mian said this mainly to avoid future questioning. The unknown brings fear, while the abnormal brings rejection. Aliens who are different from ordinary people will always be the first to be attacked, and their only mistake is being different from others. Tang Mian has gone through so much that she has learned to be indifferent and lie. An elder once said, as long as you treat others sincerely, they will also treat you sincerely. However, this kind of education resulted in this elder deceiving Tang Mian of all the savings he had saved for 5 years of frugality, as well as a dilapidated house, in just a few words. The result of being stabbed twice for others is sometimes being stabbed twice by others. Chapter 10. Settle down. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Surprisingly, it's forgetting. This is not easy to handle. President Dick put the slate back in its original place, sat back on the chair, and picked up the wine glass. However, it can be said that in the past, the ability to find things should belong to the reinforced type, and mental damage is also normal. While speaking, the middle-aged man didn't forget to take a few more sips of wine. But Bea seemed to remember something, her face slightly ugly. The female knight did not choose to speak up, but turned to ask Tang Mian, who had not answered the question directly. Have you even forgotten your name? A bird that doesn't know its way back and even forgets its name cannot return to its hometown. Similarly, not being able to go back is the best reason to stay. Bea doesn't want any other women around her lover, especially those who appear weak and vulnerable, and need men's protection at all times. I only remember my name is Tang Mian. As for where and what it comes from, it's better not to say for now. After all, the hostility of the female knight is still as clear and has not diminished in the slightest. Tang Mian speculated that this may be due to professional habits. After all, knights have a lot of battles and fights, and a strong sense of vigilance is understandable. She still remembers the knight named Lauk claiming to be a master, and the rank and status here are also relatively clear. This is just like in the past world, where nobles or upper-class individuals held the power of life and death in the lower class. It seems that the danger factor should not be low. Sugar cotton. Could your family be a merchant, selling sugar and cotton? That's why I gave you this name. President Dick, who had drunk before, was already clearly drunk, with a pink face and neck. He shook and pulled out a silver metal pendant to hand to Tang Mian. You are a witch and can register as an adventurer for free here. You can receive commissions to earn money, and the guild can provide you with a temporary residence for 30 days, which is also free. You can go to the front desk to find Lily and she can help you handle it. Tang Mian took the pendant and looked at Bia. The female knight smiled and nodded at her in affirmation. Go ahead, settle down here for now, and we'll talk about everything else later. After Tang Mian left, Bia looked at the already drunk president. Since there's nothing else, I'll leave first, uncle. That witch didn't lie. President Dick closed his eyes and looked up, not looking at his niece. My discernment magic has been on all along, and her heartbeat is fast, but that should be caused by nervousness and fear, not the state of lying. The strange witch who walked out of the forest of the demon lord's realm is not a disguised human warcraft. I understand, thank you. Bia nodded and walked out of the president's room, not forgetting to close the door. On the other hand, with Lily's help, Tang Mian received another metal small card that looked like copper. Subsequently, Tang Mian was taken to a 3-story small building next to the guild and obtained a room of about 20 square meters. This is the door key, don't lose it. There is a toilet at the end of the corridor, and you can also take a shower, but you need to go to the well to fetch the water yourself. After briefly explaining the basic knowledge to Tang Mian, Lily quickly left, as if being chased by Warcraft behind. Compared to the prosperity that the Count longed for, most people still worry about the witch's curse. The best way is to stay away from the witches, perhaps to hide the evil in places they cannot see. Tang Mian is accustomed to this kind of rejection. In her new residence, there is only one single bed and no mattress on the wooden board. The windows on the wall are covered with wooden boards, and ordinary people who come here cannot afford materials like glass. The sky had already darkened, and Tang Mian had been sitting on his horse's back for another day, and now his whole body was sore. The Adventurer Guild in the city should be a safe place, at least there's no need to worry about someone breaking in the middle of the night. Tang Mian carefully closed the door and lay on the wooden bed, unwilling to move again. She really wants to take a shower, but once her body and mind relax, it's difficult for her to lift any energy. Forget it, let's talk about it tomorrow. In the quiet of the night, Tang slept restlessly on the wooden board. She dreamed that a neat line of roast beef steak was flying in the sky, and roasted whole lamb were all hung on the tree. The leaves are moxa balls wrapped in meat filling and Jinhua ham mooncakes, while the branches and tree trunks are a 1,000-layer cake made of cocoa chiffon and cherry sauce. Roast chicken and roast duck skin each other, tomatoes on sticks and pancake fruit break the steamed bun soaked with soup to take off the chicken and duck meat, rice cakes and fried chicken wings jump in the river full of cola, and cassava pearls and taro balls spit in the fountain full of milk tea. French fries and fried fish are arranged in a row, while braised pork belly and big elbows are overlapped. A sugar-painted butterfly flew in front of Tang Mian, flapping its translucent wings, bringing waves of sweetness. The new witch, who fell asleep holding the last half of the hard cake, instinctively licked her lips and felt even more hungry. In her dream, she reached out her hand to the butterfly, but in the end, she caught nothing. Awakened from his dream, Tang Mian lay on the wooden bed with his right hand extended forward. There are no roasted whole cows and sheep, no roasted chicken and duck. Tang Mian felt like a little girl selling matches, but she didn't even have a match, and didn't even know if the world could still raise livestock for meat. However, it was not without everything. Tang Mian suddenly felt an abnormality in her right hand and her mind moved slightly. She saw a semi-transparent butterfly floating above the back of her hand, resembling the candy in her dream. It shouldn't be something to eat. Hungry and anxious, Tang Mian murmured, as if the butterfly had responded to her longing, flapping its wings and falling on the corner of her mouth. The witch instinctively licked it. Hey, it was a bit sweet. No, this is clear water. Tang Mian suddenly regained consciousness from a half-dream, and the butterfly at the corner of her mouth had lost its color and shape, turning into a puddle of liquid, dripping down her chin onto the wooden bed. Tang Mian was well aware of the importance of water and quickly struggled to sit up, carefully observing the newly emerging abilities. There is no mark on the back of the right hand, and butterflies appear out of thin air. Tang Mian tried several times and found that he could only summon two things, water and fire, both of which had the shape of a butterfly and could fly. He couldn't leave himself 3 meters away, otherwise he would scatter. The water formed by water butterflies can be drunk, while fire butterflies can burn hair. Tang Mian needs to concentrate, and once distracted, the little butterfly will also scatter. The emergence of new abilities has made Tang Mian feel particularly happy, and having one more ability represents an extra chance to survive. As for the reason for its appearance, she thinks it may be related to that slate. Well, as the saying goes, things are unpredictable, who knows?